Hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here for just a little bit, and I was going to show you how I make my bread. This is just a good yeast bread that only has to rise for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you bake it. And so it's very quick, very easy, just a few ingredients, and don't want to get political. Don't want to get into an argument about what could happen, what's going to happen, because honestly, who knows? But one thing that we do know for sure was when the pandemic hit, quarantine happened, one of the things that was really hard to get was bread. And that's when I pulled this recipe back out. I had found this recipe sometime back, would make it every now and then, but started making it again over the spring and summer. When I could not get bread. It's very simple, and if you will have plain all-purpose flour on hand, you can buy that in bulk at Costco. Plain all-purpose flour, buy a big thing of yeast. I get the big things of yeast at Costco, store them in a glass jar, put them in the refrigerator. Some type of sweetener. A lot of times I'll use honey, and then today and some days I'll alternate between honey and maple syrup. Today I'm using maple syrup, and some salt and water, and then you've got bread. And so just something that might be helpful. If we need to make our own bread, or if you just want to make your own bread, because obviously it is healthier, it's delicious, and it's a whole lot healthier for you. So what I have is 1.5 cups of warm water, just the hottest that I can get out of the tap, and then I'm just going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast into my warm water, and then I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of the maple syrup into the yeast and water. So we're going to set that aside, and then we're going to get our flour. And I am out of flour, so hold on. Okay. All right, so I had to go get some more flour. This is what I've been buying at Costco, and it's 12 pounds of King Arthur all-purpose flour. So that's this is my favorite. I can't remember how much this is, and it's not always easy to find this brand, and I like it because it's unbleached. The other all-purpose flour at Costco is bleached, so I'll try to buy these when I can. So what we're going to do is you're going to start out with 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and just measure that out. So just 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And then we'll keep this to the side because we will need more as we need our dough. Okay. All right. And then to our flour, we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and I use the pink Himalayan salt. Okay, and so you can just sort of mix that all together. Use your hands, use a spoon, use whatever you want to use. All right. The yeast has been sitting in the warm water with I'm trying to not let y'all have to see me. I think you can see that. So you see what the yeast looks like. It's kind of bubbly and growing. That's what you want. And I've just let it sit here for just the length of time that it's taken me to, put the flour in the bowl. So you don't have to sit and wait for any long time. So you're going to pour all of that, and be sure you get all the honey or maple syrup in. I'm just going to pour that into your flour. And then I just mix until it sticks to each other and it's combined. And also, before I started all of this, I went ahead and preheated my oven to 425. So I go ahead and turn that on so it can be warming. And also once we get through forming our dough, we're going to put the dough directly onto the baking sheet that you're going to cook it on or bake it on. And I put it on top of my the stove top and put a cloth over it, and that's where I let it rise, since the warmth of the oven will, you know, come up, and that will help your bread rise. Okay, so after I've got it combined, it's very sticky. I then will take, sometimes I do it directly on the table, and but today I'm using just a cutting board, and I will put down some flour my hands, and then I use this scraper to kind of get it all out of the pan or the bowl. Okay. And then you will need to just flour it a little bit at a time as it becomes more manageable. As you start to knead it, you'll start feeling the sticky come through. And when you start feeling sticky, just kind of incorporate some more flour. And you're just going to do this over and over and over until your dough becomes to where you can actually knead it and it not be sticky. And that depends on the day. It depends on your house. It depends on things that we can't control of how much it will take. Sometimes I barely add any flour to this. Some days I end up adding, you know, up to a cup more flour. It just depends. But you're just going to do this. Once it gets to a place where I'm not having to add flour, then I will continue to knead for maybe 3 to 5 more minutes. And then I will form it into like French bread, the loaf like French bread. You could probably cook it just in a round if you wanted to. I've always just kind of rolled it out. After you roll it out, put it on your pan, and if I use a baking sheet, just a black like cookie sheet, I put a little bit of oil on it, not much, just a little bit of oil to help it from not stick. If you have a baking stone, that is actually the best to use. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not having to add any more flour, and I didn't even have this full, so less than a cup, probably maybe a half a cup, maybe even less, that I have to add today. And the other day I baked bread, and I added probably a cup or more. So it just depends. So now that it's not really sticking, I'm just gonna knead this for just a few more minutes. Okay, and then I'm gonna start shaping it into, now see that got a little sticky, so we'll just put just a sprinkling more. You don't want to put too much flour, but you need enough. But just keep trying, and you know, like I said, even if it's something we don't have to do, it's a good thing to know, and it's a good thing to pass down to your kids so that they know what, you know, how to, if you're kneading bread and you can't find it in the store, that if you keep some all-purpose flour, some yeast and sweetener, some salt, that you can have bread. And bread for breakfast, you could toast it, put butter, jam on it. We've used this with our soups. We can make garlic bread out of it. You know, whatever you need, you can use. And you could probably even use this as a cinnamon roll base. I've never done that, but it's pretty versatile. So, okay, so now what I do, it's a little sticky, just put a little bit more. I start rolling it out, kind of pulling it a little bit, and you'll get it to a shape like you would think of a French bread loaf. Get it to where you want it. And then after you do that, I'm going to take it over to my baking sheet, my cookie sheet, and I'm just going to put it, let me see if you can see that, maybe. I'm just going to put it on the cookie sheet, and then I'm going to put a cloth over it, set it on top of my stove, and let it rise for probably 30 to 45 minutes. And then I will show you what it looks like before I put it in the oven. And like I said, the oven's preheating to 425. All right, I'll be back. Okay, and so I put it on the pan, I let it rise, I covered it, put it on top of the warm stove, and covered it with a cloth. After it rose for about 45 minutes or so, I uncovered it, sliced it with a knife just to allow air to escape, and then I baked it for about 16 to 20 minutes in a 425 degree oven. When I took it out, I put butter all over the top of it, and then let it just cool for a little bit before I sliced it.